Russia is planning to cause an environmental disaster that will affect Romania, Bulgaria, and Turkey. NATO is preparing to launch a preemptive strike against Russia. Witkoff flew out to meet with Putin. This week could be decisive. Solovyov claims that he traveled to the Dnipropetrovsk region. Meanwhile, explosions were heard in Moscow. Meanwhile, Russian propaganda reported that performances are being held in the Mariupol Theater building, which was bombed by the occupiers at the start of the full-scale war while civilians were inside. Hello everyone, my name is Eva Nikolashvili and this is the program In Trend. Like and subscribe because we're getting started. Russia is preparing an environmental disaster that will affect not only Ukraine but also Romania, Bulgaria and Turkey. Hackers from the group 256th Cyber Assault Division found proof of this and passed it on to Channel 24. So, they intercepted a combat order according to which Russian army units are preparing to intensify large-scale war crimes in Kherson. The document was found in the official correspondence of Major Alexei Yatsenko, a serviceman of the 98th Airborne Division. So what exactly is the plan? According to the documents, the occupiers are planning to cross the Dnipro and seize the Karabel neighborhood. At the same time, the Russians are planning to intensify attacks on the energy infrastructure as well as water treatment facilities in the regional center using strike UAVs and ballistic missiles. And it is precisely in these latest actions that the threat lies. The fact is that after the Russians destroyed the Kakhovka hydroelectric power plant due to constant shelling, the city's energy and water treatment systems are operating at their limits. There are already problems now. The water of the Dnipro River in the area affected by Kherson's discharges is classified as very dirty and extremely dirty. And if the Russians destroy the Kherson thermal power plant and the distribution networks of the energy infrastructure, this will trigger a domino effect, journalists write. A power outage will lead to the shutdown of water intake pump stations, sewage pump stations, as well as water treatment facilities within a matter of minutes. This will result in untreated wastewater flowing directly into the Dnipro River. The proximity of Kherson to the Black Sea plays a critical role in the far-reaching consequences of the disaster. At the same time, the poisoned waters of the Dnipro will not reach the Russian coast or occupied Crimea. The current system in the Black Sea forms the so-called Knipovich gyres, two cyclonic water flows rotating counterclockwise in the western and eastern parts of the sea. The waters contaminated with toxins will be carried toward the coasts of Romania, Bulgaria and Turkey. And you might be surprised, but it seems that NATO is no longer willing to tolerate Russia's provocations. The North Atlantic Alliance has decided to stop being passive victims. As stated by the head of NATO's military committee, Admiral Giuseppe Cavo Dragone, they are considering acting more aggressively and preemptively. In other words, NATO is contemplating a preemptive strike in response to Russia's hybrid warfare. However, of course, there was a but. According to Dragone, questions of jurisdiction are currently preventing decisive action. He says that NATO countries face far more restrictions than their opponents. Because of ethics, because of the law, because of jurisdiction. That's why they now need to analyze everything thoroughly. What do you think? Will they be analyzing deeply for a long time? And what will they ultimately decide? Share your opinion in the comments. Also, let us know which countries you're watching this video from and whether people there support the Ukrainians' fight against the empire of evil. I really enjoy reading all your comments. And don't forget to like this video and be sure to subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. Meanwhile, discussions about the peace treaty are ongoing and this week could be decisive for Ukraine. At least that's what the head of European diplomacy, Kaja Kallas, says.
Yesterday we heard that the negotiations in America were difficult but productive. We don't know the results yet, but I will speak with Ukraine's Minister of Defense as well as the Minister of Foreign Affairs today.
Kallas noted that it is clear Russia does not want peace, and that is why Ukraine needs to be made as strong as possible. As for the US negotiations, they took place the day before in Miami. The Ukrainian and American delegations met there, and both sides assessed the talks positively. They announced significant progress, but also added that there is still much work to be done. At the same time, as reported by Western media, the negotiations were tense due to disagreements over territory. The American side insisted on the withdrawal of Ukrainian troops from Donbas, while Ukraine called this impossible. The Ukrainian side also insisted that Kyiv does not intend to abandon its course toward NATO because amending the constitution for the sake of a deal would set a bad precedent. The issue of security guarantees also remained unresolved. Despite the unresolved issues, the American delegation flew to Moscow. Trump's special envoy Steve Witkoff may meet with Putin as early as tomorrow, December 2nd. The Kremlin's chief propagandist, Vladimir Solovyov, claimed that he traveled to the Dnipropetrovsk region and published a video allegedly from the border between the Dnipropetrovsk and Donetsk regions. Evidence: zero, against the backdrop of a ditch, the so-called dragon's teeth and fog.
The Dnipropetrovsk region. These are the barriers, the ditch dividing them. We're at the border. On one side is the Donetsk People's Republic, on the other side, the Dnipropetrovsk region. Just like that. Already, Dnipropetrovsk region. And now going back, it's already the Donetsk People's Republic, and
now he's already in the studio telling how he went to the front. This is the ephemeral Dnipropetrovsk region, hopefully not on Russian territory, otherwise he came back a bit too quickly. In the studio, the propagandist claimed that he had dreamed of visiting these places since Soviet times.
We spent 33 hours in the car, drove 3,000 kilometers. Just to, well, I had a dream to visit the Dnipropetrovsk region. Back in Soviet times, I somehow never made it there. So I decided, well, to drop by now. I'd been meaning to for a long time, and now somehow everything just lined up. So we went to the Dnipropetrovsk region. We traveled with Kurabek Kurayev, a colonel and a hero of our reports. He's the commander of the 36th Brigade, a young colonel in a general's position. He was just recently awarded the Hero Star by the Minister of Defense. An amazing guy, charming and cheerful. And we arrived at the places where the Far Eastern Express had passed, sweeping away everything in its path, and we ended up right in the area of responsibility of my friends. That's the 90th Tank Division.
What do you think? Did Solovyov go to the front? Write your opinion in the comments. And don't forget to write your suggestions on where Solovyov should go next. To a Kobzon concert there, or after the Russian ship.
My dear friend, I want to tell you something.
Dear, the occupiers keep reaching new lows with their cynicism once again. Propaganda has reported that performances are being held in the Mariupol Theater building. In the Mariupol Theater, which was bombed by Russian troops while civilians were hiding there. In the Mariupol Theater, where hundreds of innocent people died, now the Russians are dancing on their graves. As reported by the Collaborator, the so-called general director of the theater, Igor Solonin, the audience will be presented with the productions The Children's Scarlet Flower and The Empress's Favorite. They are scheduled for December 27th. The official opening ceremony, according to the Collaborator, will be several days earlier than planned. Prime Minister?
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine Today. Join us now.
New history lessons from Russians. Now, it turns out Lenin gave Crimea to Ukraine. He actually died in 1924, but that doesn't matter. 30 years later, he rose from the mausoleum and gave it away.
The ruler of Russia was Lenin. Yeah. He gave Crimea to Ukraine. Lenin himself. And in what year was Crimea included as part of Ukraine? Well, after the collapse of the Soviet Union. No, in '54. And when did Lenin die? I don't know. Google it. Do you have a phone nearby? In 1924. 1924. So Lenin died in 1924, but in 1954 he gave Crimea to Ukraine? Well, then he must have given it earlier. How earlier? If Crimea was included as part of Ukraine in 1954? Well, probably it was officially included in 1954, according to the documents. Yeah. Anyway, what's the difference? Crimea is ours, that's it. In
Moscow, there was an explosion. A car blew up there. The incident happened near the residential complex Gorod Moskovsky. As a result of the explosion, windows were blown out in several apartments. According to Russian social media channels, the car belonged to a 41-year-old doctor of physical and mathematical sciences and a specialist in quantum electronics, an employee of the research institute Polius, which is part of the Schwabe holding of the state corporation Rostec. This institute develops and produces products for both military and civilian use. At the moment of the explosion, the scientist was on a business trip in one of the Southeast Asian countries. Speaking of Moscow, there's a wonderful proposal here. It has appeared. Remember, Leps suggested renaming Pokrovsk to Putingrad? Stalin had Stalingrad?
And we will always remember it. And our truly great president should have a magnificent Putingrad, so that all future generations will forever remember his remarkable and great deeds for all time.
So there's a proposal to rename Moscow. I'll say right away, I really like the new name.
I want to say a couple of words to Grisha Leps. I've told you before, Crimea. Grisha, you want to rename some city, turn it into Putingrad or whatever you called it, right? How about we remake Moscow? Belgrade. That's how it will be. Lograd. Can you imagine a plane flying from Tbilisi to Lograd? You'll be the first passenger.
And finally, a word about the wonderful life in Russia. Here's a bus stop in the Pskov region for your attention. Granted, in the comments people confused it with a toilet, but that's a minor detail. The main thing is it's not cold, as the author of the video says. And the fact that it's a toilet, well, that's nothing. Russians are used to shacks anyway.
Tell me, have you ever seen bus stops like ours in the villages? I'll show you everything up close now. It's this kind of wooden building. At first glance, you might not even realize it's a bus stop unless, of course, you notice this sign. But by the way, it's already worn off. And this is what the structure looks like from the outside. Look how cool it is. And honestly, it's great because in bad weather, like in autumn or winter, at least it's not cold to wait for the bus. And now I'll show you what's inside. At first, to be honest, I was a little scared to open it for some reason, but I went in to take a look anyway. Here, it's like this. In the slope. Actually, it's not bad. By the way, they built the bus stop themselves. One man built it when his son was going to school since there were no bus stops at all in the village. Overall, it's a really good idea, especially when it's snowing, raining, or freezing outside. What do you think of this kind of bus stop idea?